Okay, so this is Introduction to Hermeneutics. This presentation is for the Introduction to Hermeneutics through the Pathway Training courses. So hermeneutics, what is it, and why do we need it? What is this strange word? It is the branch of knowledge that deals with interpretation, especially of the Bible or literary texts. We need this skill so that we can properly interpret the Bible. Okay, because the way that the Lord decided to reveal Himself to us as Christians is through this collection of multiple types of literature and literary styles. There's historical narrative, there's psalms, or poetry, right? There's wisdom literature. Uh, there's so many different types and tones in the Bible, right? So it takes a keen understanding of the Scripture and ways to think about it to be able to interpret. It is a collection of books that was originally written in Greek and Hebrew and Aramaic, right? Main to be in Greek and Hebrew. And so our Bible, we do have translate English translations of the Bible. God's blessed people to translate His Word, and we have multiple translations in English that are very good, right? Um, Therefore, it is important to have a couple of different translations that you read from, so you get the full understanding. It was written over many years and by many different authors coming from all walks of life. You have doctors who've written books in the Bible, right? You've had uh, Paul, who wrote a prolific amount of the New Testament. At one point in time, he was a very zealous, I guess, Pharisee that wanted to exterminate Christians, and then of course he had this encounter with Jesus where um he wound up then changing his life and being sold out to God, right? Then you have somebody like John who was a fisherman. So you have all sorts of walks of life, even just in the New Testament. Okay, so avoiding bad interpretation. So when we read the Bible, we should use context to interpret the meaning of the text. We use the Bible to interpret the Bible, right? He uh, he gave us His Word, and it should be something that we try to understand, right? So you just shouldn't take just one scripture and try to decipher meaning off just that one scripture. That leads to some very dangerous outcomes. Use the rest of the context, use the story around it to see what that verse is trying to say. One example of that happens a lot, and it's happening especially during this time of year, is Jeremiah 29:11. Generally, us in America, uses this to encourage young people. The verse states that he, Lord has plans to prosper them, right? Um, while this verse in its original context was to encourage, it was just to encourage the Israelites as they were leaving the Babylonian captivity. Okay, so um, not so much to encourage, teenagers that the American dream is for them, right? Because let's face it, God has probably called some people not to live the American dream. Not everybody will have a comfortable life. Sometimes God will call them to a mission field out in wherever, and they may suffer. There's more scripture talking about how we will suffer than we will prosper, right? So sometimes if you take scripture out of context, it can lead to dangerous outcomes. We should not use emotion to interpret scripture. We shouldn't you take the feels right approach. Instead, we should let the Spirit guide us, and so we can. We should use the Spirit, let the Spirit guide us, right? So, um, when we use emotion, we can once again end up interpreting the Bible in a way that is dangerous, or end up missing the full blessing that has God has for us when we study His Word. When we interpret His Word correctly, He blesses us by giving us what He wanted to tell us, what the message He wants to give us, and not the message we're trying to read into it. So that's why we should always be cognizant of how we interpret. So that is that. Let me see how we